Hello. I audible? Hello. Let me just check if my audios are good. Yep. It seems like it. Okay, that's great. Yeah. So I am live in here. I'm trying to set up and see if the other controls are good. Yep. And YouTube seems to be not having any. I hope that's okay. My hair has been a little issue now. Just before the stream, it was all proper. Now it seems to be having its own fun. Okay, so how is everyone who's watching? How are you? How has your life been? And how is things going on? Where's your hacking journey going on? So I guess we don't have any viewers right now, so it's just me talking to the internet's oblivion. And yeah, okay, so I have quite an agenda for today. So, which is to showcase a little bit of server side and client side hacking. And then we will go to my personal favorite, which is OSINT and finding, let's say, tracking someone who is online, who is digital. And let's see how digital footprints can give so much information about someone. How every post in a social media gives a clue or identification of, okay, where did you go, how did you go, and all those things. That's one thing. And other thing is, we'll also be doing a little bit of raw hacking, which requires some amount of theory to also be known. So I'll be touching upon that also during the stream. It's also going to be related to, let's say, how does something actually work in the back end and front end. You will get know what exactly I'm. But yeah, we'll be also talking about a overview of one basic hackings and all those things. Yeah. So it's I just wish like just showing up my stream here. It's like current viewers is zero. Right? Okay. So yeah, I think I can start the stream and go about the actual agenda of why I came live today, which is to showcase these three rooms of Try Hack Me. So yeah, I feel I can go ahead. Right. So I feel let's just dive in, right? So that is new setup here, new camera angles and all those things. So hi, new side of me. Okay, so let's join to this room of Try Hack Me. It's called as Fool's Mate. Now, okay, yeah. Now, if you had seen the stream's thumbnail, it's obviously I'm saying hacking chess, but we are not actually hacking chess, the game, but we are hacking something related to chess. Okay, so that's what this is about. Fool's Mate. Now, I did a mistake, which I should have booted the machine first before I actually start the stream. But that's okay. So we can go with reading about the contents that is given here. So we have a minute for the IP address to be shown to us. So it's a good chance that we can boot up our VPN connections and all those things. It's mate and one. You know it. The engine knows it. My grandma knows it. The board says checkmate is one click away. The engine says no. Settle the argument. You can access the web app from your attack box browser, and this is the IP address there. So the whole point here is simple that we have a scenario where it is a checkmate in one step. It's a one move checkmate. We know it. The board knows it. The game knows it. The engine knows it. but it doesn't allow us to do it. So before we actually get into this argument and fight against the server, let's connect to our OpenVPN connection here of TryHackMe, and make sure our VPN and networks everything doing good. And we get initialization sequence completed, so that's good. So, and we also have the IP address here. Let's copy this IP address and let's get into this argument. So let's copy this, open a new window, new tab, closes out, and paste this into the URL there. Okay, so now I don't know how many of my viewers play chess or are huge fan of chess, but I do. My chess, I am there in chess.com and my username is Pranava00Rao. Yeah, I hope that's what it is. Or it is Pranava Rao 00, or either one of them. Either Pranava00 Rao or Pranava Rao 00. So if anyone here is also into chess and stuff like that, you can hit a connection of friend request there. So we can have a challenge and all those things. My rating is not that great. It's not like a one that I can show off. It's around 900 or 800 ish. So I do play often. So okay, so now in a chess match, what I do is in this given scenario, and it says white to move. What I can do is I can move the rook from a1 to the position here called as a8. So that's like a uh, move which would give, let's say, it doesn't allow the king to come out of this box anyway. So it forms a checkmate called as back rank checkmate. Okay, so when I click the rook to move from a1 to a8, it says I'll shut down your PC if you play that. So which means that the engine here is trying to threaten us that okay, if I move from here to here, it's going to shut down my PC. I'm like, okay, fine, let's not do that. So can I come here? It says white to move. So if I move from 1A to 1B, it says it gave a message queued and then it moved the king there. Now can I move it here? It says I'll shut down your PC if you play that. Okay. It's saying it's giving me a threat again. So what if I move here? So it's going there. And can I try again here? This I'll shut down your PC if you play that. Okay, so we get the point. We get the point that no matter what, if I move this here, it says okay, it's allowed. But if I try to move this here, it's giving us the block error. So can I take this? Okay. I'll come back. Can I go here? Nope. What if I do this? Can I sacrifice my rook? Oh, it does take it. We can play chess here and see what's going to happen ultimately. Will this love? Okay, this is a very bad move. I mean, I should have bought my king. But let's say we do something. Okay, so it's a proper game. But when I try to move anything to the back rank, okay, let's reset this and move here. It says that is not going to allow me to do that. Okay, so is there anything in the source code that going to help us and identify what exactly is happening? So if we come and open it here, it's all the basic HTML stuff that is going on, and uh, yeah, these are all just okay. What are all the positions and all those things is just given here. It's like okay, M16, all those related information is there, but nothing that would be like okay, why is this happening or what is happening? There is no kind of information related to it, right? In the source code, we don't get those information, but uh, what happens is these web applications are that too in a case like this where you have so many moving parts. They are not just a basic combination of HTML and CSS. They have something like JavaScripts. So when I move this here and it's going to say okay, this is what it's going to do here, it is trying to run a script and identify what exactly are we doing here, and it's going to be trying to analyze things. It's going to run scripts here. It's going to do all those processes. So that is done by JavaScript, which basically handles all these functionalities in a web application. And in source code, we see that there is a script which is being called, and it is JS app.js, right? So it is right here. And this is what is exact JavaScript function here. Now, if you wish to, you can go and read the entire JavaScript code and understand, okay, what it is doing and all those things. So you can even see some errors here. It says, I will, or I will. What was the error? I just saw it here. Uh, Shut down. Okay. So it's here. So it gives some basic function. So if it is like a function which is let's say moving the chess piece from this position to that position, it's checking that if it results into a checkmate position. So if the move, whatever I'm doing, results to a checkmate, it's going to give me this error message. If not, it's going to move on with its own regular functions of, okay, this is what I'm doing, that's what I'm doing. Right. So uh, that's what is happening in this particular function here. It is explaining that thing. If it is a checkmate, I'm going to give this error. Now, what happens is if this particular function of what is happening in this web browser, if it is not configured right, this can be easily bypassed. Now, for showing this bypass technique, I'll open up my burp suit and I will show what exactly is happening under this hood. So when I move these pawns and move these pieces in this chessboard, what exactly is happening in the backend, we can look into that. So I'm opening my burp suit. At the same time, I will configure my browser to pass in all of its traffic to the burp suit. So I'll go to network and manual proxy, click on OK. Let's close that. And burp suit, I'm using community edition for this stuff. It does work. So we can go ahead with the community edition. And that's starting the project. Uh, my PC seems to be hitting its core because I'm streaming, opening burp suits, and things like that. Hopefully, if the stream goes down, I'll come back alive. Don't worry. Right. Okay. So we have all these things going on. We'll just filter out for this IP address. So let's copy this and go to scope, add, and I'll add this domain in there. Let's remove all these things and just say this IP address. So I'm just adding, I don't want to bundle up all the traffic that is there. So I'll just give this as a scope. So anything that I'm going to be intercepting, it's going to be the traffic from this browser itself. Okay, here let's reset this position. Let's come back to the normal page. And now when I turn on intercept, okay, and try to move this, okay, it's just sending all those things. Let's forward all these. Okay, let's forward all these. What's happening? Okay, let's turn that on. Okay, now I'm going to. Okay, okay, what's that? Let's add this to remove from scope and I'll add to scope. Okay, this seems to be fine. Let's turn this off, turn this on. Okay, we have this page. Now, when I try to move this rook from 1.8 to 1.8, come on, let me just do something. Okay, when I move it from just one sec, this is too bothering. Uh, Is this not set? It's set, right? Okay, there could be some other connections also in the back, which is going on, which could be bothering it. But okay, is this okay? Let's move the do the things really fast. So when I move from here to here, it says I'll shut down your PC, right? It is not allowing. So in the client side, it is blocking all of my requests to do any of these things. But here's the catch. Now in the client side, I'll do a very genuine move. So I'll turn on the intercept. I'll do a common move which it does allow me to do, which is to move from there to here. So what I'm doing is I'm moving the rook from A1 to D1 or C1. I'm either one of these two boxes, I'm moving it there. So if you look at my traffic here, I'll forward all these unknown traffics, which is, I don't know for what reason is still being intercepted. What we see here is that it is posting. Let me come to settings and user interfaces, display, probably zoom this furthermore. Okay, so it's moving. from the position A1 to C1. Now, this is what the movie did in the client side. But what if we intercept the traffic, and then from instead of C1, we will move it to A8, which is the position here, which results in checkmate. And I modify this request and then click on forward. Then I'll just turn off all these requests. It does lead to checkmate. So it moves from here to here, and we also get the flag. So it is a checkmate there. What is happening here is the client side is well protected. It has all the filters to make sure that the rook or anything that is going to result in a situation where there's a checkmate for the king doesn't happen. It's not just about the rook moving here. Even if I, let's say, have an end game where there's just a pawn and a king and they're trying to battle against each other, any given scenario, it's going to make sure it is blocked, but that block is only the front end here where the user is able to interact. There's a blockage there, but there is no server side verification for the same process. Now the server is not verifying whether the given move that the user is sending from their let's say traffic or the request that we are sending, does that have the same security check or the same check that is there in the client side to protect against a checkmate? Is it the same thing there even the server sent? So there is no filters or there is no security checks which is happening at the server's end. Now in this case, it's just a chess match. It's just a position where you're trying to checkmate on the king. But at a larger scope, let's just talk for some time. So at a larger scope, what happens is that in the client side you could have a verification, let's say for a mobile number, saying that okay, if you click on this button and then say verify an OTP, it is going to do it at the client side. But what if there is a mechanism where I don't click on it, but then I say verified or modify the request while it is being intercepted, or when I give some random code in between, the server has, if the server is not configured well to check, okay, is the entered OTP from uh the request, is it matching to the OTP which is actually generated? Is this check happening in the server? If it is not happening there, then I could enter the right OTP here in the front end or in the browser here, or a wrong OTP here, and then modify the request in between and be able to exploit that security flaw of not checking what the request is being sent at the back end. So that's what is being demonstrated here. The whole point of this game is that we are not just saying that there should be a security check which is happening at the client side, but the same security check should also happen at the server side. Let's get back to our screen here. Let's copy the flag and move this flag to here and paste it there and click on check, and that solves this room there. Oh, let me turn the sound off. Okay. Yeah. So this is completed. Now there is a brother to this. Okay. So which is Fool's Mate Revenge. So now once you complete Fool's Mate, there is a new room which is Fool's Mate Revenge. And let's get into that room too here. Yeah. So I have joined this room. Let's also start this lab at the same time and continue reading here. I see my client side defense was no match for you. Well done. My appreciation. Oh god. My whatever that word is, I'm not able to pronounce now. Okay. Let's see if you have what it takes to claim your prize. You can access the web app from your attacker's box and the machine IP is going to be presented there. So something similar to what we had earlier. But this case, it's saying that there is a defense for the client side and even to the server side. That's what is meant indirectly, that the client side defense was bypassed in the earlier challenge, but now let's see that they might have something in the server side also. So I'm just waiting for the IP address to show up, and that's going to take 10 more seconds. Right, so let's close this, and also in the meantime remove this from the scope and add the new one there. Okay, let's copy this IP and paste it here. Click on OK. Right. Let's see if there's any other traffic which is just randomly flowing. Okay, I hope no. Fine. Let's copy this and open a new tab and paste this IP there. Okay. Now this is the same game that we had in the earlier challenge. So let's try doing the same thing that we tried doing earlier, which is to move the rook from a1 to a8 and says checkmate, no reward for you. I'm like, okay. So it does accept the checkmate, but says no reward for us. Okay, so this is something different, right? So let's see what's happening under the hood. Let's come to the intercept here and reset the position. Let's forward all these requests and reset the position. Yeah, let's forward that. Okay, now let's move the rook from a1 to a8 again, and we see the same request just going there. Let's move this to the repeater, and then let's forward this and all these things. I'm just clicking on forward and says checkmate, no reward for you. Okay, so this is what we are getting there, right? Okay. Now the reward in this case is nothing but the flag that we want to have. How do we get this flag? So probably it's accepting the rook there, but it is not giving us any reward for us. Now, what is happening under the hood? Let's just go and see that. Let's turn this recept off. And in the repeater here, let's forward this request again. It says error, illegal move. Okay, I guess we need to reset this position. And now if I do this and send the request, it says the same message. It says the move from A1 to A8 and something else is here. The status is checkmate. Okay. Turn as B. Turn as B is just the black pawns. And winner is white. And locked is equal to true. Message checkmate. No rewards for you. And reason is that reward gate closed. Session.config.unlocked is not set. Okay. So when someone hears this, okay, session.config.unlocked, the first thing that actually goes to my mind is, oh, is there cookie here? Is there any manipulation of cookies? And I'd be like, no, I don't see any stored cookies. Now, usually session is something that you set as a session when you try to, let's say, log in or set a preference or set something into the page, right? So, okay, so it says session here. And also in this case, we have some preferences here. So that's what gets me curious. So I'll say forest, I'll say midnight, and let it be classic. And okay, whatever the standard is. So I'll click on save preferences, and it does change the preferences there. But I don't see anything changing in the cookies side here. So again, none of the information is actually going to be stored there. It's going to be right here. But just to show you that there is no information being stored anywhere in this browser's location, which gets us okay. So generally, this is basically a hint. Now, in a case of CTF, they do give you a hint because you never know how the back end is. You are just trying to learn something and trying to improve your skills. So they do give you a hint, but here it says session, and I did change the preferences. Now, session is generally used in the terms when you're like logging into a page. Now, for a web browser to remember that, okay, I have logged in, it stores some kind of information like what is the username, what is the login time, and all those details into the browser's cookies. And that cookie is going to be used by the browser to understand, okay, what is exactly happening in the page and so on and so forth. So either that, or if you have something like a theme, let's say you set a dark theme or light theme in your pages, and those preferences need to be remembered by the browser or the server. So those are the modifications that you do, and it sometimes gets saved in the server's end, on the cookies end, or it also gets moved to the server's request, and then that also gets saved. So let's say when you log into TryHackMe itself, you have option to have either light theme or dark theme. So how does the browser know that you have selected the light theme or the dark theme? Is that when you click on the preferences, it have saved that details there. We will okay. So that gives us another hint. So when I click on save preferences, what exactly is happening under the hood? let's do that and let's see what's actually happening. So I'll click on save preferences. I'll move this request to the repeater here, and I'll let the request just go there. And in the repeater here, I will push this request and see what's happening. So it here says okay and gives true and says preferences is all these things. So it is giving us the preferences of the page that we are trying to use here. Okay, so fine. If that's the case, if this entire preference is being told to the server by this request to the API call for the settings, what if this is an indirect hint saying that okay, so you need to set something like config which says unlocked, right? And that needs to be set as something like a boolean value which is true or false or 1 or 0, something which is in the backend. So something like a session needs to be configured for the unlock to make sure that it says it is allowed. So okay, now this is the request. Now here, if you see here again, if I come to proxy tab and let me play a move. Let me forward all these things and let me play a move. This is actually bothering. Let me. Oh, seriously. Uh, what happened? Reset position. Oh, it's all stuck here. Oh God. I did not even move, by the way. Okay, so I will intercept now and okay, I've moved it, I guess. Right? It has moved. So it's just calling to the API and it's just moving this points here. It's like A to 1 and A to 8. It's just moving it there. It is not passing any details from the server's request here, and it's not sending back to the server. It's not taking the client's request and it's not passing any extra details to the server, in spite of our themes being changed and all those things. So it gives another hint saying that whatever modification that I need to do is going to be the modification that I need to do in the settings calls, because settings is trying to modify something in this page. Now here it says midnight, and I remember we had something like forest, so I'll change it to forest and pass this there. So the theme is set to forest. Now let's refresh the page and changes to forest. So it means that the server is being modified by the request that we are doing here. So all these requests are affecting it. So what if I say here a command which is to say underscore underscore proto. I'll come back to why exactly I'm doing here. Now, this is not something that would just come on top of any penetration testing that you're doing. It's not like you will think, okay, I need to do this, and then you'll do that. It's something which comes with a trial and error, which I will talk in a moment before I uh, go into that theory. So, first, we'll show how this is working and what is happening here, and then we will get into that. Okay, so okay, now even before I do that, let's show a basic example of what actually would be my thought. I will say something like unlocked, okay, and I will say true, okay, and then I'll pass this thing. So what's happening here? So it's like okay, true, and it does its stuff, and let's say something is happening. Okay, reset the position here, and now I move this rook from there to there and says no reward for you. So doing this, saying unlocked true, did nothing to the page there. So it is not like saying unlocked is true is not changing anything in this API call. Now, there is a very good reason for this API call not selecting unlocked is equal to true. And the reason is because the format in which this API call is generally built is using the combinations of JavaScripts in between. Okay. So the vulnerability that I'm going to be exploiting here is called as prototype pollution. So it's a very unique kind of a vulnerability that is hard to find and hard to exploit also, because it's not over the top vulnerable in any given cases. It needs to be combined with either one or other different kinds of vulnerabilities to actually be able to exploit this particular scenario. And that is what is happening here. So it is like, uh yeah, so it's a basically it's using JavaScript in the back end. So it's whatever you are seeing here in the format of curly braces. It's the JavaScript that is being run under the hood. So in JavaScript, okay, there are certain commands which you can use in your web browser or in your site, which enables us to modify or control the application's behavior. So it's a case where I can define new rules, I can define new stuffs, I can define new objects and define classes, or I can modify prototypes. I'll come into what all these things that I'm saying in a moment. So what I'll do is I'll show you the exact attempt that I'm trying to do here into solving this, and then we'll get back to understanding what are we exploring here. So I'll try something called as proto. Okay, so this is a specialized command, and I'm going to set this with what did we have here? It is unlocked. So I'm going to say unlocked is equal to true. Okay, so I hope this is the could be the right command. Uh, or yeah, this is the right command. So I'll pass in this request to the server and says okay, and it gives us no errors or anything like that. So it just says okay. And now what happens here? So we'll try to reset the position and try to move this. It says checkmate, no reward for you. Okay, so let's take a small tangent from this place of what exactly are we doing here to something which you will need to understand before we actually solve this. So I'll have a small theory that I've made it like notes on here, which I'll just briefly go through what exactly are these things in the browsers and things like that. Okay, so when we talk about JavaScripts, there are a few definitions that exist in JavaScript. So we have something called as objects in JavaScript. So uh, objects are like something which holds the information that you need to be dealing with. Let's say you want to define a person, so you say a person, and that becomes an object. So a person is an object, and inside that you have details like name, date of birth, or you have what is their height, or you have what is their favorite hacking operating systems. So you have all those things inside it. So object is nothing but a container which has the capacity to hold multiple informations inside it. And there is also something called as class in JavaScript. A class is nothing but a blueprint which you can use for building objects. Now let's say every time if I have to create a object, if I have to create a person called Pranava, and I want to add in the names like or I'll say user one is an object that I want to create, and inside it I want to add details like the name, my height, or my favorite operating systems and things like that. So instead of creating objects every time, I'm using a blueprint by which I can call that blueprint or a class or a function, and pass in all these values to it, and it is going to create an object there. So let's take an example. So in this browser here, anyway, we have this open. So let's open a console here. You can also try this along, right? So I'll say let person, okay, is equal to this, and I'll say name is equal to my syntaxes might be wrong, so just forgive me with this syntax if there's any errors that arise due to syntax. uh okay, so I'll press enter. It says yeah, so it is that person is equal to, does this work? uh yeah, it is name this. Okay, so it creates an object called person. So if I say console.log and I call person.name, it's going to give the name that that person has. So I've created an object called a person, and it has contents like name and stuff like that. Now if I have to, let's say, create multiple persons, or let's say I'm creating a social media account, and the sign up page I say, um okay, create or take in all this information from so and so person from entering here. You cannot be creating manually creating objects like this. So you need some blueprint where you can pass in all these information, and then that creates an object. So that's what is called as a class. Let me pull up my notes so that I don't make any errors in my syntax in defining a class and all those things. So okay, so I have this thing. So I'll define a class here. I'll call this as class, and user profile. I'm using this as an example because this makes more sense a longer term. And I'm saying constructor, okay, and that is going to be taking information like name, age, and date of birth, right? So it's going to take this information, and it's going to be defining all these things. So it's going to say this dot name is equal to name, and I should have, okay, so let's we should have edited this. Let's run this there. This dot what had we named? This dot h is equal to h, and this dot dob is equal to dob. Okay, so these are the contents that I'm adding to the class here. So I'll press enter. It's going to give error because it's already created. Its user profile has already been created. We need to edit it. Let's do something like user profile one. Okay, right? So it has that class has been created. Now if I have to create anything related to this, I can say let user is equal to, and I'll say a new user profile one, and then I'll pass in all this information. So I'll say Pranava, and my age is 25, and date of birth is something like 1/1/2025. And yeah, so I'll pass in this as one thing, and then I'll say let user one is equal to new user profile one, and I'll call this as ABC, and their age is 30, and their date of birth is 2nd of 1st of 2025. Okay, so I'm doing it there. I'm pressing enter. Now what happens is, if I try to, let's say, uh, list out the information of this user, so I'll say console.log, console.log, oh god, console.log, and then call user, just to see what informations does that have. It's going to give that this is an object, and inside this object we have all this information like age, name, and date of birth, and so on and so forth. So basically these are the objects and containers inside this. Now the reason that I want to show this in practical is because this is where you'll understand now. So let's say this application in the backend has these objects, and it has a object called as settings, right? So this settings object could have parameters like theme. It could have what is a piece set, what is animation, and all those information in this particular object there. So it is in settings. Okay, that settings is an object, and it has all these classifications inside it. Now these objects, the thing called as setting object, okay, it's going to be defined something like this itself. It's going to say let's say let user and all these things is going to be set in that way itself. So every object has something called as a prototype. Now, prototype can be, let's not get into too details, but it can be visualized as a backup for an object. Okay. So let's say the object that we have created here. So the settings object, what is here, has a certain contents inside it. It has themes, it has piece set, it has animations inside it. Now, if I have to, let's say, give another global settings, okay, that can be also used by other kinds of objects or other things, so I can define something called as a prototype, and that prototype is going to have its own conditions in that. So this condition, let's say speed as a function there, okay, we'll have a function called speed as a prototype there. So I can not just have settings of this object alone to be verified or using this, but we can have also other objects to also use this prototype for running this function for speed. So we can have something like a prototype, which is going to be like a backup for an object. So I've given an example here. Again, now the source of learning all this in depth is actually there in TryHackMe. If you're interested, you can browse to TryHackMe's dashboard and search for prototype pollution. So you can come to walkthroughs and search for prototype. Yeah, so this is the prototype pollution. So you can browse through this walkthrough, and they explain in a very detailed manner about what I'm exactly explaining. So, but yeah, let's take an example here. The source is from that page itself. Now, let's say we have a prototype defined. So, in the top here, user prototype is a prototype or is like a backup function, and it has a function called greet inside it. So, all that this function has is to welcome someone. It says hello and it gives their name there. So that's all this entire prototype's job is. So, you can consider prototype as a function. If you're using Python or any other application for development, you can create a function called as def something, right? So something like that itself is a prototype. You can visualize that, but it's not in theory the same, but something similar to that. So it's a function there, and I'm creating another object here. So the object here is user profile prototype. Okay, the naming is very bad here, but okay, whatever. So, and it is creating an instance, or it is creating, let's say, a regular user as a variable there. What it is doing is it's passing in this information, just like how we demonstrated right here, that we are passing information like creating that object. So here it is creating an object called regular user and passing in all these information like Ben 25 1000 and all these things into this function for creating all these objects. So it's creating objects. So this is a class here, and that class is creating an object called regular user, and that regular user's details are supplied here. What also it does is that it is connected, this particular object called regular user is also connected to a prototype or a function called user prototype. It's not directly linked, but it has a connection. So it knows that anything which is not present inside this class or inside this object called regular user, it can try to find those information under this prototype or under this function. So that's what we are actually defining here. If you can see here, we say object.create, and it's calling this user prototype as an object there. So it's giving a callback reference saying that, okay, if there is something that you want to use as a prototype or an object to refer from, you can refer from here. So that's the whole point which is given here. And what is happening here, if you go to console.log and if you call greet, what it does is it's going to come to the user here, which is the regular user, that is the object that we have created. And inside this object, it's going to see what are all the parameters which is present. So it has name inside, it has age, it has followers, and all the other details which is there. It doesn't have a function or it doesn't have a parameter called greet. What it does, it calls to its prototype, whatever is the prototype or the function that it has, and that function has the function called as greet. So, or that function has a something which is called as greet, and it knows where to access from. So by running this, what happens is it's going to go to the user, it's going to see that none of these have the values that we actually need. So it's going to call to this prototype, which is a connection given to this particular object, and then it's going to run the greet command. So that's it. So then it's going to identify, okay, so greet is there, it's going to say hello, and it's going to give the name of the user who has run this. So this is basically a general idea about how prototype and objects and everything works here. Now you should understand this as a basic to understand what we are actually trying to exploit here. So let's say, okay, so with prototype, what we have is it arises with abilities to modify things. So what we saw here is how prototype works. Now what we're seeing here is how using prototype you can modify a particular object to, let's say, give more connections. So now here what we're doing is we are already establishing a connection, saying that for a object which is being created under this class, you can refer to these prototypes which is already defined there. So it's an individual prototype. This is being called earlier. What it also gives us an ability is that, let's say we create a class, okay, we create a class called as person and then create their related information, okay. So it's a class which is independently built. Now once you independently build a class and then create an object with that particular class, so let's say we're creating an object called as Bob or alias, and we are calling this class for creating that object, and it creates with their name. So it's all that it is doing is creating with the name. Now what we can do is prototype also gives you an ability to say, for the person, for the class that we have, create a prototype connection. So it's going to create a connection. The command for that is prototype. It's going to create a connection to another function, just like how we had greet here, right? So we had a greet as a function inside the prototype user prototype. So it's going to create a connection to say hello. So if someone calls saying that say hello, so it is going to come to this class. The class doesn't have any related information, but using the prototype command, what we're doing is we're giving a connection to the class, saying that okay, if someone says hello, you come to this function and then run this. This is going to say hello, right? So what is going to happen with that is, now okay, let's run this and let's show what exactly happens there. Okay, so I will create, or I'll just copy this thing from there to here. So I'll copy this and run this there. Can I zoom this in? Oh, I can do this. That's great. Okay, so I'll run this class. So I'm creating a class called as person, and all that it is doing is it's taking the name. uh so what has happened? Have I already created something like person? Oh, I have already created that. Okay, so let's create another class called person1. Hopefully that should not cause an area. Okay, so we have a class called person1, and what we're doing is we are just setting that if any input is given, that is going to be the name of it. So the name is going to be associated to that particular class. So right, so this is what we're doing, just like how we have definitions of classes in Python. Something similar, that is something similar itself is being used in Java here. JavaScript, not sorry, not in Java. So now what I'm doing is, now let's say we have before creating this, so we are creating a connection called uh, person.prototype and say hello. So we will paste this command here, but instead of person, we'll call it as person1. So that is creating a prototype. So it means that it's connecting whatever is in the person1 class to say hello function to this. So that is going to create a class there. Okay, so sorry, it's going to create a prototype connection to this class there. It's going to say hello. So now when I call this, let's say construct, or creating a constant for let's create for Bob. Let me copy this here and paste this in here and press enter. Oh, I've already created Bob. So okay, so constant, let's create Pranava itself, is equal to new person, and I'm giving my name as Pranava. Hopefully this is not already created. Oh, this is also created. Let's say Pranava 10, and that's going to create. So oh, sorry, person, it's not person1, it's person1. I hope this should do the job. Oh god, I mean, there are ways to clear it, but I'm not going to be doing it now. So I've created a constant called Pranava 11, and that is being used by the class that we have set called as person1. So it's all that it's going to do is it's going to have a name stored in that object, right? So I can say Pranava 11 and see what is exactly that. It is going to have an object, and it is going to contain only one parameter, which is name. So it doesn't have anything like say hello, right? It doesn't know anything like that. But when I say in the log here, let's say console.log, and then I call Pranava 11 dot say hello and press enter. Okay. Did I do a mistake here in defining the function? Prototype person one, prototype say hello, and it's going to return hello. Okay, so all that we have to do is to call Pranava 11 dot say hello. So we're calling this, and that says hello. So okay, so this is saying hello to us, right? So what it is doing is that it is going to the object here and saying, okay, there is no function or a parameter inside the object called as say hello. So it is going to check for all the prototypes or the connections that it has and says, okay, say hello is defined here. And it is like, okay, so fine. Now it is going to say hello. But this also gives us a problem here. Let's say I give something similar to uh, this itself. So person one dot prototype say hello, right? So we have this function there. What I'm going to do is I am going to say I'm going to pass in this command there. So I'm going to say person one dot prototype dot is human, and I'm going to set the value to be true. Okay, I'm pressing enter. Now what it is doing is that for any class which is being defined under person one, I'm creating a prototype or a connection saying that is human. It's going to create a parameter called as is human, and that value is going to be set to true. Now let's say I just say Pranava 11 here. It just says object has just these parameters. It just says the name is Pranava. It has nothing else inside it. But if I say uh, Pranava 11 dot is human, I'm going to ask this to that. Okay. So, oh, sorry, it's not a function there. It's going to say is human, and it's going to give the value saying that true. Now, this is the problem there. So, this is what is dangerous for us. So, when you give or given have an ability to say prototype and create your own connections to an object and define your own abilities here. So, now let's say somehow I passed in this command saying this, right? So, person one. So, for the object, what is person one, which is created? If it is able to connect a new connection called as is human and setting the value to be true, any object which is connected to this particular class will also have these prototypes connected to it. So something similar to what we were trying to actually do here. Okay, let's come back to what does a proto syntax actually mean here. But what we're trying to do here is that I'm saying, can you create something called as unlocked and set the value to be true here, right? So proto is another command. We'll get into the command later, but I'm trying to exploit something similar here. I'm trying to set that is this value of unlocked, just set it to true. Okay, now the syntax of proto actually has a different meaning, and that's what is explained here. uh Let me come here and answer this question. Why is it dangerous? Is because let's say you are in a situation where you want to be able to uh let's say you have an ability to pass in two values. Okay, so that's the example given here. There's a person and there is an ability that you can enter address and city and set the value of it. If you're able to control the xy and the value parameter to a particular class or a particular object or a particular javascript placeholder, if you're able to do these kind of modifications, I as an attacker can also pass in this command called as proto and then say is admin is equal to true. So what it is doing under the hood is, so when you run the command called as underscore underscore proto, it is going to run the command person constructor dot prototype. Now you'll get a question like, okay, what exactly is this? This is getting complicated. Let's simplify and understand what exactly this command does. Before we do go to proto, let's understand how objects are called or referred in JavaScript. So let's say I give a, object saying name or name 123, okay, and give something like anything. It can even be an empty, uh, let's say empty object. So I press enter, and I'll call this. I want to understand what type of thing that I've defined. Okay, I could even set arrays. So I'll say arr is equal to, and I'm going to set an array, right? So I can define anything here. Now I don't understand what exactly a variable or the constant which is defined, what exactly it is. So I'm going to say name 123 dot constructor. So all that this command is doing is trying to say what exactly type of variable is that. So it is saying object. Now if I say arr dot constructor, it's going to say it's an array. So it's defining, okay, what type of uh, thing that we're using there. Now, what Prototype does is to give connections and associate informations to it, right? So, what you have seen from Prototype is that it's giving a particular class or a particular object. It could even be an object. It doesn't have to always mean a class itself. It can even be pranava.prototype, say hello, or anything like that. It could be abc.prototype, say hello. It can be anything. It can even be an object there. So, what here by giving proto is doing is that it is running person.constructor prototype. It under the hood, this is what is happening. So it is running these things. So person.constructor, nothing means object. So in this case, it is giving an output called as object, right? So it is saying the person.constructor becomes object. So uh, it is something like object.prototype, right? Oh god. Okay. Yeah. So this is what is happening in the backend of it. So when I say person.constructor, it runs that command. So person.constructor is nothing but an object here. So that is what is defined. Person is an object. A person is a class, which is a class which becomes a object for when you define a variable to it. So it is an object, and for that object, I am creating a prototype. So an object itself is something which is a building block. It is what it contains or defines other variables and other things. What I'm saying is, for an object itself, create a prototype or create a connection called isAdmin and setting the value as true. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to do here. So when I have a placeholder and when I try to give proto and then say isAdmin and set the value to be true, it is going to convert the entire syntax. Okay, so person dot prototype. So basically, this is what is happening. Person dot constructor dot prototype is what is the full form of proto. So it's going to say object because person.constructor gives a result as an object. And for the object itself, we are defining a connection called isAdmin. So any variable, let's say Alice is going to be defined. Okay. Now none of them individually has the isAdmin property inside it. But when you try to reference for isAdmin as a variable against any of these things, it is automatically going to get the value as true because object for all the objects. Now Alice is also an object, Bob is also an object. So for all the objects, you're defining a connection saying isAdmin, just like how we define prototypes here, right? Just like how I explained, it's going to go to the user and it has a connection called prototype. That's what is going to happen. So instead of user as a prototype here, it is the object itself. The main object itself is getting a connection, and that is instead of greet here is getting is admin a true. So that's what is happening here, and that is true. So now when I say Alice is admin, it's becoming true. Now that's the dangerous part. That's what I was trying to run here. Now how do I identify this? This is not something that you will directly get at a forefront, or you will not be able to identify this vulnerability just because you have JSONs moving around, just because you have something moving around. This vulnerability arises when you have something like it's all a try. It's like a hit and try method. You need to attempt for all these possibilities in your code, and then you be like, okay, is this working, is this working, and then you try to actually achieve this. Now what happens is, probably, I'm assuming, I'm speculating here, I have no access to the source code or the backend of this. So what I'm speculating here is that they are trying to filter this command called as proto, right? So because they're trying to filter this command proto, we might not be able to directly access this. But since we have already referenced from here that the proto is nothing but running the object and saying constructor.prototype, and then it is running the command, right? So we'll try to bypass this filter for prototype with something like a payload of defining constructor. If I can get the spelling right. Uh yeah, spelling seems to be right. Okay. And then I say this, press enter. Now I'm going to say a prototype, and inside this prototype I'm going to say, okay, I don't need that. Yeah. So what I'm doing here is, now inside this request that it is being sent to the API, I am saying create a constructor. So it is probably going to look something similar to this. So it's going to be like settings. I'm just assuming this could be the backend of it. Settings dot constructor, and okay, uh, dot prototype dot. So this is what is happening in the background. So when it says settings dot constructor, it literally means object dot prototype dot unlock is equal to true. So this is what is happening in the backend. So for object, you are referring a prototype saying unlock. So for any object that is there in the backend, irrespective of what that object is pointing to or is containing or anything, it is going to have a prototype or a connection to unlock, and the value is set to true. That's what we are trying to exploit here by this command. Now I'll pass this command and it says okay, true, and all those information there. Let's come back to the browser here and try to reset the position, and now play this here, and does work. Now why is that happening? For again, this is a speculation in the background. There is some function which is insecurely configured for accepting any input. It's like the example that I've given here, which is to this one here. So when you have a variable which is being sent there, it could be having some background process which basically takes in the input of changing these things. It's going to set theme is equal to this. It's going to set pieces is equal to this. So it doesn't have constructor. Rather, it looks something like settings dot theme is equal to forest. So it's going to have something like this in the background, which is run by the JavaScript by the code what is written there. It's going to run something like this. But by giving our own command here, by saying constructor, prototype, unlocked, and all those things, it is creating a object reference to the uh, a function called unlocked by the prototype command, and is setting that value to be true. So that's what is happening in the background. And because now any object which is present inside this code is reference to the point unlocked is equal to true. So when the browser goes through this function of moving the rook from here to here, it is it is it is it is it checks that, okay, whether session.config.unlocked is it set. So it's this is basically a hint. Okay, so it is giving us a hint of saying, okay, you can try this or try that. but that's what it means. So it's trying to check if that unlocked status is marked as true or not, and if it is set to true, it is going to give us a reward. So let me copy this flag and paste it here. We'll just finish this room, but in the background I'll just also reset the position and coming here and run the same command, and it doesn't give that error back again. It gives us the flag there, so which basically means that when the browser checks, okay, in the even in the server's end, whether this particular value is set or not, it is looking at that prototype what has been polluted, and it is saying, okay, this value has been set to be true, and it is giving the output there. So this is called as prototype pollution, and it is more vast than what I actually explained in here. I just wanted to cut it short because uh, understanding this also comes with some background knowledge about JavaScripts and looking at the server side codes and all those things. And TryHackMe has done this part in explaining about, okay, what is the servers and how does it work. And in fact, I've used some of the code examples from here itself. So they've given, okay, why does a vulnerability actually assign? You're able to see that it is setting these functions, paths, values, and they've given examples to be able to run cross-site scriptings and all those things. Again, this stream or whatever I'm doing right now at this point of time, not sponsored by TryHackMe, but I really feel like showing. That's the reason I'm just saying that. Okay, you can go here and then probably learn from that. Okay, so yeah, so there's a very good detailed description and learning that you can do from here. In case if you're getting whatever concept that I try to explain to be complicated or beyond uh, whatever I just said, so you can come here and then learn from that. So it is in general exploiting this ability of JavaScript being able to assign different connections to different variables there. So with that, yeah, I have stretched this thing a lot. I know I have. I wanted to keep it actually short, but then you know something. It took time there. Okay, so yeah, so let's get into this third room. Before that, I just want to see how is the stream going. The stream seems to be fine. Let's just have the chatting window here. My hair is has gone for a toss, right? This I'm trying to grow hair, and yeah, so the fan is also here, and I keep moving my face here and there. So let us fall. Okay, we have one. Hi, 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 Sai, hi. Oh, we have only currently two. That's good. That's a good progress from zero to two. I'm wondering what this is. This is water. So what I do is have a kettle. Now kettle, not coffee, water, and I sometimes warm the water and then drink. But if not, this is like my storage for keeping water. Oh, sorry, I'm talking to this camera. It's a new setup, so ah, so right, okay. Wait, I'll just check how is the stream's audio and things like that. I just did it in the beginning. I felt my right. So hello. Okay, it seems to be fine. It seems to be. Okay. This hair is actually bothering me now. I'll just be back in a moment. Let me fix my hair and then let's get back to the third room of this. I'll be back. Okay, so I feel this is okay. This doesn't bother me, at least for the rest of the stream that I'm going to be doing. Yeah. So I had muted my mic, so let me just check if the audio is still going good. Yeah. Okay, it seems to be good. So let's get back to the third room that I've planned to do here. Let's get to the screen here, and this is Catch Me Outside. Okay, so my personal favorite, reconnaissance or OSINT or footprinting, call whatever you want. It is nothing but gathering information. I love this. This is, let's say, it's something like being able to, I don't know, it requires, it's not like technical knowledge that is required. Okay, so because um gathering information is fun, it's very dynamic in nature. Like it is, it's a real world data which changes. So I kind of love this, but I also love doing technical assessments, like all these things that I just showed. So okay, so we don't have any rooms and all or machines to boot up. It's all about answering the questions, and OSINT is all about doing researches from online sources and online locations wherever possible. Let's get into this room now. Let's read the background, and that background is: years after walking away from the scene, a retired hacker has left pieces of his identity scattered across the open internet. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than a leaked conversation screenshot, but buried in the image is the first thread of much larger trail. Public profiles, forgotten details, and small mistakes begin to connect into something more deliberate. Someone wanted, this person found. Your assignment. You are an OSINT investigator tasked with identifying the retired hacker and tracking the clues he left behind. Start with a conversation screenshot, follow his online presence, connect the exposed details, and use the final evidence to determine where the trail ends. So we have a screenshot here, and before I read the screenshot, let's just see what we have here. So this task includes an example of an active OSINT in the real world. Interacting with discovered infrastructure or accounts can be risky, may alert the target, and should only be done with proper authorization. For this room, the interaction and response are part of the control challenge setup. So the reason why I wanted to read that is because now uh, the majority of the audience here might be professionals who are watching this just to have fun or anything like that, but I should also pay the attention of anyone who's trying to start out and trying to learn something new and all those things. So all the things that I'm showing in the stream or as being demonstrated here are all in a controlled and owned environment, which is deliberately meant for professionals or beginners or who are trying to learn to be able to interact and do something which is the objective of that particular room. So just like how in the stream I demonstrated about bypassing the client side security checks, or trying to exploit a client side, let's say, vulnerability of misconfiguration with JavaScripts and all those things. Something like even what I'm going to be demonstrating now with OSINT, they are all controlled environment that is done by the community members of Try Hack Me or Hack the Box, or there are other platforms also which do all these things. So it is a controlled environment. You, when you're performing this on a basis, again, let's say, other than you're doing it for your client, or if you're doing this just to learn something, it is a very thin line, or a thin boundary that you're having between doing something which is easily available and accessible in the internet versus crossing the limits of ethics or boundaries that is bad to cross. Okay, the information that you find online, let's say through social media accounts or anything like that, using that information to, let's say, dox someone or threaten someone, blackmail someone, or any kinds of malpractices is illegal. It could be a method that you find because it's open source and you're able to find it through something that a person might have intentionally uploaded or shared or something like that. It could be a scenario, but using that information to do anything which is bad, like doxing, or sharing, or threatening, blackmailing, or insulting, or any kind of activities like that, that is bad, even though it is found online. So in this cases here, it's a controlled environment. They have built an environment, scenarios, storylines, and all the dots, or even the technical things like finding vulnerabilities in the web application. All those things, they are deliberately present for you and me to learn, or demonstrate, or practice our skills and knowledges into this platform. It's a disclaimer that I wanted to bring it earlier, but if not, then never. At least now, that disclaimer that any of the knowledge that you're learning, use it for the good cause. Don't try to do anything illegal, because there are huge consequences of doing something illegal too. Okay, now let's get into doxing. Sorry, let's get into OSINT. Okay, let's get into doxing this hacker who has retired for some reason. Let's read their storyline or a chat which is leaked. Yo man, you still alive? Haven't heard from you since form got taken down. Lol. He is still here, been trying to lay low for a while. Honestly, I'm kind of done with all that scene. Wait, seriously? What happened to you, homie? I don't know, man. Got into hiking and cycling, started going out more after all these years. Staring at screens, doing sketchy stuff feels way better. That's actually kind of fire. How does one track all that stuff? I use Kumut. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right or wrong. Uh, Kumut seems to be valid. I'm using Kumut. It sticks for logging routes and plan new ones. Here's my profile if you want to check my trails or follow me. So they've given the Kumut link, profile link. Bro, you really traded hacking for hiking. Respect, honestly. We'll check this out eventually. Haha, yeah. Fresh air hits different after years in basement. Try it sometime, you won't regret it. Now, I have a question to my audience here. How many of you actually sit in a basement and do all this hacking stuff? Or is it like you're sitting in some proper environment, like gaming environment or a room, and then doing your hacking stuff? Let me know. Comment down below. Let me know where do you sit and perform your hacking. I'll be eager to know. So yeah. Okay, let's get back in here. So, what do we have here is nothing but a link. Again, this chat actually means nothing to us. What we have is the link there, and we have some bunch of questions that we need to answer. So it's like guiding us. Okay, where exactly and what exactly do we need to find? So some questions is, what is the retired hacker's full name? Now, let's answer one question at a time. We'll take all the details that we have with us and then move forward. So we have this URL. Now it is difficult for me to copy from there. So what I'll do is I'll modify here and type it here. HTTPS. It's my new keyboard today that I just bought. And getting adjusted to this keyboard is actually a little difficult. In the sense, I used to use a different keyboard, and yeah. Okay, so www dot promote.com, user 566762495835. Pressing enter, does that actually? Okay, so it does give us into the wallet page. So accept all cookies. Uh, yeah. From here, we actually get the user's name, which is Jim Lee, right? So let's just paste that and on check. So this is the user's profile which he has actually shared, and it says, "I am an ex-hacker trying to turn my life around. Lately, I have been focusing on becoming more active." And they've also shared their GitHub page and followers following. Can we follow? Do we need to log in? Oh, we need to log in. Okay, so yeah, so and there's statistics and things like that. Okay, that's good. Right. So yeah, we answered what is their full name. We get it from here. This is their full name. What email address does he accidentally expose? Okay, so we are now trying to identify what is the email. Now here in the profile they've given their GitHub, right? Let's go to their GitHub page. And one thing about GitHub, which I don't know, but majority of the time people don't know that when you try to commit something in GitHub, it actually links your email ID in saying this is the person who has committed so and so. Now if I go to any repository here, this is what is part of actually finding the email. But if you come into the profiles repository here and go into the commits, so whenever you commit for something, let's say you are developing a tool for hacking a website, and you commit your code into your GitHub profile to say, okay, anyone willing to do this activities can use my code or something. If you're creating a profile, I mean, anyone watching here, uh create a GitHub profile. You The best way to learn is to create your own codes, is to create your own tools. It could be a tool which is already existing. What you do is just understand the technology, understand the terminologies and methods and things, or technologies which is being used under the hood of that particular tool, and then try to replicate it using Python, Bash, or C, or anything like that, and then try to upload it on the GitHub or anything like that. The reason is that is because now, more than just using a tool, understanding about how that tool works is more important as a penetration tester or a hacker. It's not about using a tool to be able to hack into some resources, because that tool is only able to hack into an environment or break into an application security in that given context where that tool is able to run and it is configured to run in that context. But when the context is changed, when the scenarios change, when the environments change, where tools cannot actually come forward and do that exploitation, understanding about, okay, what does that tool actually do under the hood will give you an ability to be able to, let's say, perform your exploit, which was not capable by other users who are just using tool, because you understand the technology there, because you able to, like, okay, if this tool is not working there, I understand what is happening here. I have my own alternative ways or abilities to do it, right? So learn how a tool or application or anything that works, and then try to upload and create a GitHub profile and all those things. It does help you a lot. Okay, so yeah, let's get back here. Let me not move away from the topic. What happens is when you come to a commit, let's say you committed something. Okay, here they have committed for all these codes and all. GitHub actually stores those details here. If you go to the URL of the commit that you want to see and type the word called as patch, it gives the metadata of that commit. So it says from and some random character, and it says who is actually committing this, and their email ID is exposed here. And it says when is the date, and all those information is given here. So yeah, so anyone who has not configured your GitHub properly might be leaking your email IDs there. So just go and check if you're able, if you are exposing your personal email IDs or not in your GitHub commits or something. And actually, there is a way how you can make sure your email IDs are not exposed by, you need to go to settings and then enable that settings. It's the option is there in GitHub, but majority of them, let's say, would not be aware of it, so they will be leaking it. How does it look? You can see it here. Let me show it in my case. Pranavarav, GitHub. Uh, in here, let me go to my latest repository, and this is one latest repository. So the commit that is done here. There's a commit here. Let's go to the recent one, and if you enter the same thing, dot, right, so you will get something like this. So this is the protected way. Now whatever commit is being done by this alias which is defined your email ID. Now again, this email ID, what is being presented here, is nothing but calling back to the email ID that you actually have. But in this case, it is something which GitHub owns. It's something which GitHub is only able to reference it, and no one else. So in this case here, they are exposing their email ID by not configuring it right. So anyone watching this, you can always go and just check if your email is exposed. If it is exposed, go to settings and you can hide it by using those methods. Right. Okay. So we got their email there. What is his phone number? Right. Now there's no method in GitHub where you can find a phone number or identify the phone number and all, which actually took me a while to like guess and search and all those things. I was like trying to Google search Jim Lee to see if he is he famous or something. Then went down this rabbit hole to identify the phone number or something like that, which obviously will lead you nowhere. But what I understood is that you have got an email ID, right? And this person here says that I'm an ex-hacker trying to turn my life around. Lately, I've been focusing on becoming more active and all. And GitHub page is given there. If you actually analyze their GitHub page, they say currently starting my security consulting firm, ex-hacker and avid runner, right? And it is like giving the Jim Lee as a security consulting, their organization details and all those things. So, so it was a question like, okay, does this email ID have anything like a auto reply set, right? Because as a consultant, usually what companies do is they have an auto reply accounts. Now, if you try to email that particular email ID, it gives you an automatic reply saying that, hey, you can connect here and here, or this is our HR email, this is our admin email, or this is our sales email, all those things. There's an auto reply emails which can be set. So, being a hacker who's trying to create his own consulting firm, probably there could be an auto reply or auto email set there. What we can do is we'll copy this email and we will send an email to that account. So I've stand into my Google account. So I'll compose an email to this user or the ex hacker and say, please share me your phone number. Again, you don't have to say this. It can be any subject. They will say, hello. This is Pranava here. I wanted your phone number. Can you share it with me? Thank you. Power up. Now again, don't worry about the disclaimer and all these things. This is a signature which was set by me long ago. I don't know why I had kept this. Again, this is like my if you look at the logo in the top, you'll be like, oh, anonymous. No, it is nothing but my personal account for doing such stuff. Okay. So I have kept anonymous images there. Okay. So yeah, so I'm just going to send this email to this hacker, and the email is sent. Let's wait for a couple of moment and see if there's any auto email configured, and we receive any. email ID or a response from this email and see if we can get something fruitful. So, oh yeah, we do get the reply here. So it says, Jim Lee, good day. I will be absent from the office while I prepare for a marathon. You can contact my own phone for anything urgent. Best regards. And they've shared the digital cards. So this is actually nice, right? Okay, so in the digital card here, we can see the phone number being shared to us. So let's copy this. Technically, this should not be the case that anyone who's going to send an email should be able to get this automatic response. It should be something that you can trust to be able to, let's say, get the phone number or something like that. So yeah, yeah. So it is not configured right, but again, this is a CTF environment. So yeah, this is basically now again what they're trying to show is different types of reconnaissance or part of OSINT is that there are two types called as passive reconnaissance and active reconnaissance. So in passive reconnaissance, what you do is you try to let's get into chatting. So what you do in passive reconnaissance is that you try to capture the details or identify the details that is already exposed and doesn't interact with the end target. Let's say I'm trying to identify information of XYZ person. I don't interact with the XYZ person. I just go online, go to YouTube, go to Instagram, go to Google or any sites possible, and then try to identify about that person. Now, what this sending an email or directly contacting with the end target is called as active reconnaissance, where you directly engage with the target client or the target person, and then you are trying to extract the information from that target person. So that's what is happening there. So what we're doing here is active reconnaissance or active OSINT or whatever. It is basically we're trying to interact with them and then being able to get the information or details that we want to get. So yeah, and click on check. We get the phone number there. Which city is he located? Ah, okay. So we need to identify in which city is that person located. Now, for that, what we can do is we have the GitHub here. What do you notice here is uh in this case they are saying their name is Jim Lee, but here they're saying something like a profile character or a profile name, right? So this is generally a common thing. Now, for having a consistency, what we all do is, let's say my profile, my Instagram profile is at the rate Pranava underscore Rao. Similarly, for my X account, it is at Pranava underscore Rao. Even for my YouTube, it's Pranava underscore Rao. So what happens is generally we have a consistency of keeping a profile name because anyone who wants to find us can have a single profile code or profile name, and then they are accessible across all kinds of platforms. So in GitHub, if this is what is the profile name, why don't we search for this for this profile name and see can we get any information from there. Out of the blue we get threads, and we also get Instagram, and let's ignore all this try hack me posts because they are walkthroughs of this challenge. So basically we get threads, Instagram. We can even search for Facebook if that's present. I don't know, Facebook is too old school, I guess, at least for this generation. Okay, so AI is telling that there is no profile active with that name. uh okay, so this actually doesn't look like the valid one. Let's close that. Any other social media? X? Do we see an X or Twitter? Uh, there is no exact one, but something similar. So we can ignore Twitter too. Any other popular ones? Ah, that's it. So we have Instagram and Threads here, right? So in Instagram, there is no post. There is nothing here. So uh, there is nothing that we can actually do here. But when it comes to threats, we do see that there are some interactions, and he's actually actively posting some posts in threads. So yeah, so they're active in threads. So and the username also matches with the username that is present in GitHub, right? What is exactly the question that we had to answer is that in which city is he located? Yeah. So the reason I wanted to come here is because they're trying to run and all those things. We don't get any other clue from here, nor from there. So the only other way is like to see if someone is actively posting. Now, if someone is into athletics or is doing some activities, now you generally post in some social medias, right? Saying, hey, I went for a run here. You take selfies, or there's a as a gym app which I follow. It's called as Thenix. Okay, so you have you see many people saying, okay, I have done this workout, and they post a selfie or post some images related to their workout and all those things. So it's a general thing that you share about your activities and things in your social medias. So that's the reason I wanted to search that. Okay, is there any social media account related to this username which is actually giving some information to us? And we see that they're active in threads. And it says here the latest one, which says, just finished my last run before the big day. Hopping on the tram for my well deserved coffee at my favorite French market. And they have shared a photo of that place, I guess. And we have all these comments or threads. Okay. But we have this image here. So, what we'll do is we'll open this image or open link in new tab. No, open image. Okay. So, I'll copy this copy link. What is happening here? Okay. Okay. Image is anyway opened here. So, in this image, if you look closely, why is it not zooming in? Oh, open image in new tab. This is better. Yeah. So when I try to see here, uh, just by looking at these things, I don't get that much of information. But there is a name here. There is a name of something. I don't know. It could be a supermarket. It could be some shop or something like that, right? So we get some name in here, and what we can do is we can open up Google Maps. We had another window open here, right? So where's that window? Oh, this is the window. So we'll come here and we will search in maps.google.com. One second. Oh, oh, oh. I don't know at what point did I get into this. Okay. Okay. So, oh, my face was not visible. From what point? Okay. Okay. Anyway, we are solving the same question. So this seems to be okay. All that I did on my screen was to take this username and then search for it on Google and try to find something here. What we find is in the threads post, we have this user actively participating and then interacting there. And in threads, I just open this new image into this window and open the image again. And I just zoomed in. Okay, I hope that's fine. I don't know at what point did I do and forgot to switch back to my screen there. Okay, so yeah, we have this name in the browser, sorry, in the image. What I'll do is I'll open this in my Google Maps and I am going to be searching for that name. IRIGATI something is there. So TII dot RO. I'll just yeah, I'll just search that itself. Does it match anywhere? and it does. So it gives us a location of it being somewhere. So if I even go for a street view, and this somewhat looks like the same thing that is visible here. Can I try to come across the street and then check to see if that's visible? So, okay, it is visible from there. So, which means that we are running from here or something. So, at this point, yeah, somewhere here was our hacker standing, or they were running from somewhere here. So, we can roll here and then check. What was this hacker doing near the roadside? In the busy road, that too. Okay, somewhere friend like this. So probably this should match what we are seeing here, but the image is not clear because I'm just guessing with the traffic and everything. Yeah, something like this. So uh, our hacker was standing at this region, and the image also matches to what we have found from their threads pages. So we'll just copy this location and I will share it to the page here. So in which city? In which city is, we don't need all those. I'll just paste it in here. It's going to take it, right? No? Okay, so just this. I'm pressing enter. No? It is this one then. It has copied it. Let's just copy this. I can't type it because that has something else in there. Not this. Sorry. Cancel. Oh, is it this? That's the city name. Okay, yeah. So that's the city name. Uh, so in which city is he located? Now the reason is he could not be located there, but he could be nearby that region or something. That's what is the thing from the image. Now next question is submit the name of the tram station where he got off on 7th of May 2026. Now how do we know where was he on 2006 7th May? 7th May, right? Yeah, 7th of May is by his threads account. So in his threads account, we see it says, just finished my last run before the big day. Hopping on the tram for my well deserved coffee at my favorite friend's supermarket. And the date is 5th of 7th. Sorry, which is sorry. It is 7th of May 26. Indian format, we read day, month, and year. It is here month, day, and year. So, uh, 5th of May, sorry, 7th of May and 26 is the day where they're saying, okay, they're trying to hop into a tram and to get a coffee at a friend's supermarket. So what we can do here is, because there could be so many tram stations. Now the question is, submit the name of the tram station where he got off. Right? It is not like where he boarded. I could assume that he boarded here because there is a tram here. So somewhere nearby a tram station could give an indication where he board. But identifying where he got off means that I need to search for some French supermarkets. So some French supermarkets in this nearby region. So I'll copy this address, paste this here, and call supermarket. Pressing enter. There are so many here. So what I will do is I'll copy this entire address and then search for supermarket. Right now that filters it further, but let's go for the first one. Okay, so this looks like a supermarket, And also near the supermarket, we have some tram stations. Is this a tram station? Yeah. So near to the supermarket, there is a tram station. And let's just have a street view of this tram station. This is the supermarket, and nearby that itself is a tram station, which is good. Which means we can try this as an answer into this page. Let's try this. Check. Yep, that's the right answer. Right. Um. Yeah. So that was it. Okay. So this is done. Yeah. Let's get into chatting here. I don't know how did I even uh forget to switch back into my screen and then continue to explain that. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, someone has commented the goat. Okay. Yep. So is there any questions or something that we can discuss for some time? If not, then probably we can close the stream or something like that. So how was it? Anyone probably watching this in the future. So just let me know. How was this? Give your opinions, comments down in the below in the comments down below. And yeah. So again, whatever you learn from these things, make sure you don't use it in any unethical places or reasons with these things. Use it where it is required and where it is valid to use. Let's say you have a requirement to do it for your client or something like that. In that cases, if not, you'll use it for learning purposes, but not into doing something dangerous or wrong stuff, right? So probably, yeah. Next week, let's plan to do something more technical or more fun or something like that. Yeah. So with that, then I'll probably close the stream and meet you all in the next stream or video or anything that I'm going to be uploading. So yeah, anyone watching in this in the future, let me know how did you feel about this stream or something, and you can give your opinions or comments or anything like that down in the comments. And do all the YouTube algorithm stuff, like, share, subscribe. If you're new to this channel, hit on that subscribe button. And yep, till then, till the time we meet next time, stay happy, stay smiling. Thank you for watching. Bye bye. I'm just going to close the stream. Bye bye.